All right. So on this guy, the first thing I want to do right now, his mouth is closed, and I want him to be able to open up his mouth and close his mouth and stick a little tongue in there so that we can have a fully functional creature. So, beautiful thing about Dynamesh is it's no problem to do that. And in your guys' own estimation, because when I was designing this class, initially we were talking about doing sort of a fundamental course in doing creatures, but I was like, well, I want to do some more advanced stuff, and so the compromise was in this first week to sort of have some first time user stuff, just as far as like this is masking, this is this feature, and a little bit of an explanation. But I'm looking at the work that like Simon and Justin posted, and I'm like, okay, well you guys have some chops, right? You got some chops in ZBrush. You're definitely not, you're not new to the program. So just overall, how are you guys? Where do you guys see yourself sitting at skill wise inside of ZBrush? Just across everybody. Do you feel like you're intermediate? Do you feel like you're advanced? I mean, how many? Actually, I guess a better question is, how long have you been working in ZBrush? I'm just going to create a clean mask. Intermediate, 1 year, cool, Claude. 2 years, awesome, Manuel. 2 to 3 years, awesome. Yeah, of course, Manuel. You know what? If you want to, you can either email me at damien@uartsy, or, all right, or you can hit me up on Facebook. Although I have to say I haven't been as active on Facebook recently as I have been in the past. Simon. Well, it doesn't show, Simon. Look, your stuff is looking good. Yeah, for sure, for sure. You just started, never touched it before, Justin. Well, I'm like, yeah, don't BS me, man. Okay, I'll take a look, Manuel, and I'll respond to that as soon as we're out of class and I have a chance to take a look at it. So when I'm opening the mouth, I want to make sure that I have a nice sharp mask around the edge of the mouth, and then I want to create this transitional area so I can get some nice deformation here, and I don't get a fold. Um, it'd be great if I could do this with some really low res topology, but I wanted to nail this first, so before I open up the mouth. So I'm softening it, and then after I soften it, I'm coming back around over the upper lip. I want to make sure that I'm coming through here. And just out of curiosity, are you guys interested in me posting undo history movies? For any of the work that I do in between courses, or in between our sessions. All right, you got it. All right, so I'm going to place the transpose line right where I feel his mandible will be connecting with the upper portion of his skull. I'm also going to turn off perspective so I get a nice clean rotation. And I'm just going to rotate this down like that. I can't, with this high of a resolution of mesh, I can't completely avoid getting that folding there. I'm not going to get a super soft transition unless I really noodle with it. So I'm going to live with it just because I don't want to sit here for a half an hour noodling with that. Clear my mask, and then let's move this guy into position. Get him sorted out a little bit. And I'd say, it's important in sculpturally to take this to about 50% before you go through this process. And I wouldn't go too far into doing a lot of micro detail or a lot of skin detail. just because through this process you might lose some of that detail. So it's best to kind of get everything sorted out, go through like the first couple, passes of your sculpt, go through and get your form, get your shape, get some of your internal features. And then once you get your internal features, maybe do like your, primary skin detail. But I would avoid doing secondary and tertiary skin detail. In other words, like your micro cracks, your skin pores. But like major folds in the skin is perfectly all right. All right, so actually this is going too slow. Let me just go ahead and mask this out and then push that back. Maybe we can go back a little bit further. All right. And then let's bring in the corners, remesh, and smooth. Yeah, after the last class, I was like looking at this guy. I'm like, wow, I kind of did some really weird things here, and I'm like, let me see how I can kind of rescue it. I wasn't. I mean, that I was designing on the fly. It was in the moment, and I'm like, okay, well, I have this feeling that something's there, and it happens. It happens. Often you start with a design, you have like a concept. And you have a couple choices where it's like, okay, either you abandon that concept because you're like, oh, I'm not really seeing it, I'm not seeing where it's going, or you try to work through it, and in this case, of course, I'm running this course for you guys. I want to work through it, and I want to make it work. And honestly, I'd say that feeling of like, oh, I'm going to start over, I'm going to start with a new concept, this one just didn't work out. I think we miss out on opportunities at that point, because I think when you're challenged by a design or a concept, sometimes you have to design a dragon bear, and you have to sort through that. I think there's something very valuable in that. Simon, is there a way you recommend sculpting the skin folds? I had a couple of quick attempts but didn't turn out too great, wondering if there's a technique you use. There are multiple techniques I use, and I will be getting into that, but as far as brushes go, I usually start with clay buildup, and so I start with an additive process of just building up the folds, and then I go through and I carve in. Right, so I look at the movement of the surface. Like right now I haven't really started to carve in yet. I did a little bit, right? But I have just these large movements. I have these big skin flaps on him that's sitting on his back. And then what I'll do, and I'll be showing you this in a bit in more detail, is I'll come in and I'll start feeling out that skin and really going, okay, well, what sort of fat is sitting in this skin? Is this thick skin? Is it thin skin? Is this, fluid sitting inside of it and thin skin, or what's going on? So that determines the kind of folds I do. But I'll show you the pattern that I use for the folds, because there is sort of a universal base pattern for every skin type that you can follow, right? It's a matter of 3 lines. And I'll show you that in a bit. But let's get this mouth open, and I don't think I'm going to noodle this much more. I want to add in the tongue. Let's turn back on perspective, and I want to open up that mouth a little bit more. So let's mask again. I know that's not completely answering your question right now, and I'm like, hold on, I'll show you later. But I will show you later. All right. Yeah, and the technique that I'm going to show you for skin is not my own. I work with I do production work here and there with some vet makeup guys in the film industry, And this is a technique that's been kind of passed around. Awesome. I look forward to seeing it, Manuel. It's sort of a technique that's been passed around for a while, and I don't know where it originated, and nobody that I've worked with really knows where it originated. It's just sort of like one of those things that's like, okay, well, this has been just passed through, you know, the last few hundred years. There we go. Probably get a better transition out of that. So let's open it up just a little bit longer. There we go. All right. And that should be enough for me to work on the interior of the mouth. And remesh. All right, from here, I'm going to add in the tongue after the fact. I'm going to keep the tongue as a separate piece of mesh, just like I'm going to keep the eyes as a separate piece of mesh to bring into Maya. So we can start by building in the lower subdivisions. Oops. I got to turn this off. You know, I don't know about you, but there's the double click function to bring up the quick menu. And I hit that by accident all the time. Like, I always forget to turn it off. So in case you've ever hit that and you're not sure where it's at, it is interface, and let's see, it's about pop-up. Nope. I always forget where this one is at. Palettes custom UI. No. It's in here. Nope. There we go. So this enable right-click pop-up, turn that off, and that pop-up goes away. In the film and games, is the interior of the mouth like tongue, gums, and teeth created from the same mesh of the body, or different meshes for shader purposes? Well, they created from the same mesh of the body. It depends. It depends on what's going on. I mean, some NPCs have no interior. You know, depending if it's like a crowd character, is probably not going to have. You know, unless you're going up and walking up to every crowd character, you're not going to have any interior to the mouth. It might just be sealed up, right? If it's being used for like cinematic purposes, for a human character and for maybe some monsters, yeah, you probably want that as a separate piece of mesh. But actually, from what I'm looking at, like different standards, right? So PC platform versus PS3 versus PS4 and Xbox One. Things have shifted, right? So at one point in time, everything had to be one contiguous mesh, right? But that's changed a little bit for PS4 and Xbox One, and definitely for PC. But for shader purposes, you can actually use we'll be getting into this later on. We'll be getting into PBR, right? And you can use maps to drive different materials into different areas and to assign different materials into different areas according to your UV layout, right? And we'll be using Substance to help us get that. And we'll be going from Substance, straight from Substance into Unreal. So we're gonna go. This is like a this is like a real-time sampler platter, right? So I want to show you just different ways of looking at real-time and different real-time options for you, right? So we're going to look at Marmoset Toolbag. We're going to look at Unreal, and we're going to look at Viewport 2.0. And next week, probably the first thing I'll do next week is we'll take this guy into Keyshot. I'll make sure that that's prepared for you guys. Like I know that the reason why I'm holding off is because I know that at the end of today, right, with everything else I want to show you guys, I'm not going to have time to do justice to bringing this into Keyshot, right?